Hi everyone, and thank you for being here for One Art's March reading, just days before AWP 2026 in Baltimore. And I'm very pleased to have with us Katie Dozier, John Arthur, Laura Foley, and I want to just say Wojo already, but John Wojtowicz, close. I'm trying so hard. It's kind of like with my name, even though it's basically phonetic, that it's still, I don't know. We all have these things. Um, but anyway, we're going to go with Wojo because it's an amazing nickname. So I digress. So this is a crossover reading with the Poetry Box, and there'll be links in the chat regarding this. And in theory, I was going to be co-hosting with Sean Avenengo Sanders. And I'm sad to say that Sean has other obligations and just really wanted to be here but couldn't do it. So you guys are stuck with me as host, but I'll keep it fun. So everyone can tell you a little bit about their books, but we're celebrating poets who have been previous winners of the Poetry Box Chapbook Prize. So three of our readers today were 2025 winners, and Laura Foley was a 2024 chapbook winner. So I'm thinking if I had other important announcements, but I don't really think so at the moment. Although I will say, since Katie Dozier is with us, that OneArt is currently open for haiku submissions for the 2026 haiku anthology until the Ides of March, March 15th. So I hope if you haven't already that anyone here now or watching later will consider submitting haiku. And anyhow, let's get underway. So our first reader is going to be John Arthur. John is the author of Lucy the Elephant Wins in a Landslide. He's a writer and musician from New Jersey. His work has appeared in Rattle, Diagram, Frog Pond, Fail Better, Tramp Set, One Art, and elsewhere. He's worked a crazy number of jobs in Bukowski-esque style. A valet at a casino, a waiter, a Ferris wheel operator, a cook, a pizza delivery driver, a fast food delivery driver, a landscaper, a journalist, an editor, a librarian, a library director, a manager, and for one long hot day as a guy going door to door asking if you'd like to donate to the Sierra Club. And I'll vouch for the Sierra Club being a very cool place. Anyhow, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat to where you can buy John's book via the Poetry Box store. And yeah, John, take it away. Excited to hear your poems.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. Was lucky to read with Katie and John a couple weeks ago, and I can vouch that you are in for a treat when you get to their readings. And I have not had the pleasure of reading with Laura, but I am looking forward to reading with her as well. So this is the book. Lucy the Elephant Wins in a Landslide. Lucy the Elephant is an actual historic landmark in Margate, New Jersey. It is a hotel. You can't sleep there anymore, but I think back in, the early 20th century and late 19th century, because it's been there that long, you could actually stay inside this giant elephant that I grew up about a mile away from. And I don't even really know why the image of it kind of made it into the book and made it into the poem and made it into the title, but probably just because it's weird to grow up next to a giant elephant. So I'll jump right in. I noticed something when I was reading with Katie and John that we all have a lot of poems about parenthood. So I kind of went through and I'm going to do a couple of my poems about parenthood while we're here today. Uh, the first one of which was actually in One Art, and it's called America's Favorite Playground. And it is America's Favorite Playground is the sort of motto nickname of Atlantic City, New Jersey. or at least it was when I was growing up. I don't know if they've still stuck to that marketing campaign. And it starts with a question that my daughter actually asked me. And she actually sitting right over here. She wanted to see what a poetry reading is like. So um, here it goes, America's favorite playground. My daughter asks if she can see a picture of gravity. She's 4, but before I can answer, more questions come at me, gleaned, it seems, from the TV. What's a tariff? What's a trade war? We buy most of what we own from the local thrift store. Just home from work, I sit next to her, still wearing my new old pea coat. Only $9.99, one button missing, but warm, enough to get me through at least the rest of this winter. Now the anchor is saying Canadians are expected to boycott. No more trips this summer to the Jersey Shore. When I was a valet in AC, I used to count the Ontario plates, smoking on the top floor of the parking deck, looking out at the gold-plated facade of the Trump Taj Mahal before it was demolished. It only took a couple of well-placed explosives. I show my daughter a video of the building imploding. That's gravity, I say. Thank you for your digital clapping that I can't hear. Um, so yeah, she actually asked me that question. I realized there's a few poems in here that jump off with like funny things that my daughter did or said. Um, so I've got another one. I was listening to the Rattle podcast, and they had it was an old episode because I've been catching up on them for years actually. I was listening to the one I think with Nancy Miller Gomez, and she had an awesome poem in there. I think it was called The Game, and it's like her and I believe her grandson going back and forth with like these silly phrases. And right after I was done listening to that, like an hour or two later, my daughter says to me something just like an off the wall thing that a 3-year-old says to you. So I did a little after poem here based on something that my daughter actually said. So this is called A Crescent Moon is a Trick of the Light. And actually, thank you to Tim from Rattle here. I put this in as a Father's Day poem for the Rattle Poets Respond, and it was not selected, but Tim was kind enough to send a little note back, even though he gets 8 trillion submissions a year. That's the right number, right? Tim and Katie, 8 trillion is the number. And he said, it was a haibun, and he was like, the haiku at the end would actually be better as Tonka prose. So I took that edit, and then it ended up in a really cool journal called Litmosphere. So thanks for taking the time to give that edit out of your extremely busy reading schedule you've got. So this is A Crescent Moon is a Trick of the Light, after Nancy Miller Gomez, and with an opening line by my daughter. His 3-year-old says, I'm a princess and you're a spring roll. And dancing along with her, he says, no, I'm a unicorn and you're a bowl of noodles. And she says, no, I'm a tree and you're dirt. And she's laughing over here. And he says, no, I'm a toy car and you're a butterfly. And she says, no, I'm flying to the moon and you're coming with me. And so they do. As soon as she says it, fire shoots from their feet, arms pressed against their sides, and they burst through the roof, confident they can survive even the coldest corner of the universe. They fly straight up toward that gray-blue beacon in the sky, through every layer of the atmosphere, and they make it. I'm looking at them now through a telescope. I can see them there together on top of its tallest mountain. Father's Day, his last visit, a waxing gibbous, almost full again. Thank you. You want to come say hi? Come, quick, quick. Here it comes. Here, she was 3 when she said this, but now she's 5. Come here. These are all the people. I gotta lift you up. She's responsible for those last 2 poems. That's Maya. All right, let's go back over there. All right, so, oh man, is it wrong if I read one that has a curse word in front of my file? I'm gonna do it anyway. So, Here comes the next one. This one's called Folklore. I just kind of had fun with this one. Actually, I think I submitted this as a Poets Respond poem too. That I just kept seeing headlines about Taylor Swift everywhere. Like it was one of those weird things where just Taylor Swift this, Taylor Swift that, Taylor Swift that. So I ended up writing this weird poem. Um, you'll see. It's called Folklore. Before she was born, when I was a little boy, I wanted to be Taylor Swift. I said, Mommy, when I grow up, can I be Taylor Swift? And she said, Who the fuck is Taylor Swift? Every day after school, I pedaled to the 7-Eleven for Pepsi and a Chipwich and shouted, I am Taylor Swift. Once upon a time, I was a wood elf with two swords ringed by lightning named Taylor Swift. My childhood dog, Taylor Swift. My collection of pogs, Taylor Swift. My dad wouldn't let me be Taylor Swift, so I screamed that when I turn 18, I will get a tattoo of the name Taylor Swift. But when I got older, a song came out by someone named Taylor Swift. I was confused by this Taylor Swift. You did not look like me, Taylor Swift. But I wanted Romeo to take me too, Taylor Swift. I asked God, and a voice said, The world only has space for one Taylor Swift. I accept the word of God, Taylor Swift. And I have to admit, Taylor Swift is already doing such a good job of being Taylor Swift. But who should I be if I can't be Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift? It has all been so painful. Thanks again. I could see some of you clapping out there. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna do maybe two or three more here. Here's another one I had some fun with. You could Mark gave a list of the it wasn't even a comprehensive list of all the jobs I've had. I've had a lot of jobs in my life, but one of them led to a poem, kind of a goofy poem here. I work now as a manager of a municipality, essentially a city manager, and it was another one of those weeks I kept seeing headlines of, he's the LeBron James of cooking, and she's the LeBron James of, I don't know, writing poetry or something like that. So I just kept seeing these kind of headlines of he's the LeBron James of this and she's the LeBron James of that. So this opening line popped into my head. I think it was actually while I was sitting in the parking lot outside of my job. I'm thinking, why does everybody else get to be the LeBron James of something? Why can't your local your local bureaucrat be the LeBron James of something? So that line popped into my head and I just kind of ran with it for this poem. It's called I Reached Out and I'm Awaiting a Response. And anyone who speaks French, I'm gonna just apologize because I'm gonna say the name of a neighborhood in Paris, and it's gonna be completely not an accurate pronunciation whatsoever. I reached out and I'm awaiting a response. I'm the LeBron James of local bureaucrats. Give me a project and I'll manage it, step by step, like a PMP using the waterfall method. I'm shooting 83% with these crumpled up reports. My desk as a backboard for this waste paper basket. I've got 99 passwords stored in my head, and I can estimate the total square footage of a building with just one glance. I rotate the same two pairs of pants. And once per year, when I go to France, I refuse to check my email. Someone else can pick up the refuse. I'm just eating snails and strolling Montmartre, buying street art, which I'll hang from the walls of my cubicle in City Hall, hoping someone will ask where I found it. But no one ever does. And look, it's not that I'm trying to stall. It's just for each decision, I've got to call a committee. This shit is still a democracy, even when the ballots are clouded by Meta's pixelated prop gun smoke, and I denote I shall not poke the sleeping commissioner who right now is bumbling through a speech written by a Rutgers College intern who uses AI to craft policy briefs in their briefs. And listen, everyone knows New Jersey spends the most per mile on repaving its roads. Potholes like pock marks on my face, with legal pot to fill any shortfalls in our budgets, which barely budge even when everyone's taxes go up faster than a luxury apartment complex. And before nodding out, I hear your voice again and again saying, "Yes, please hold. I'll transfer you now." Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's see. Two more here. There we go. Thanks, John. The LeBron James of poetry, too. Great. Better than being the LeBron James of local bureaucrats, I guess. Um, New Jersey actually does spend the most per mile paving its roads. This is one of those things you learn. But there's a good reason for it. We actually have a law that makes it so you have to pay a living wage to the people who are um, doing the roads. So it's because of the hourly rate of the workers, which I'm fine with that. We'll pay a little bit more, but people actually get to make somewhat of a living wage while they're doing the work. So two more here. I got my first job was actually running a Ferris wheel on the boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey, at a place called Wonderland Pier. Um, Not just the Ferris wheel, but a lot of the other rides. And place actually closed after like, I don't know, 75 years or 100 years just last year. But it was kind of a iconic um, place in Ocean City. It's called Wonderland Pier. A few years back, two riders died on Wild Wonder, clicking, clicking now above our heads, preparing for the drop. The cars got stuck on their track before the crash. I'm scared, but after my shift, I climb into my seat, strap in, for you, your knees pressed into my back. When gravity shifts, we hold our arms high for the photo and onto the Ferris wheel. We're at the top, my friend leaves us, long enough to smoke a blunt. The sun hasn't fully set yet, and we can see the whole crescent city as it spoons the Atlantic. Tides pulling closer, then pulling away. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I got one quick one. I started the book with a haiku and I ended the book with a haiku. I had this weird idea of like the book would be like a 12-course meal or something, and there'd be an appetizer, a amuse-bouche haiku, and then there'd be like a dessert haiku. It doesn't make any sense. But that's how I structured the book. I also kind of thought of it like it was like a music album too, because I've been playing in bands my whole life, so it's like a got an intro and an outro. And haiku might actually be my favorite form of poetry. I find it extremely difficult to write well, though, because I probably have written thousands of them and I've got like 10 that I like. So this one actually was in the haiku anthology last year. And as Mark was saying, the deadline for the one art haiku anthology is the 15th. So get your haiku together and send them in. This was in it last year. Thank you, Katie, for selecting it. And it's very quick, obviously, because it's a haiku, but it goes scrambled eggs. I've had my fill of wasted potential. Scrambled eggs. I've had my fill of wasted potential. All right. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, John. Thank you. And I buried the lead. I did hear John and Katie and John too uh, read just maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, for the poetry box. And it was just this incredible, mind-blowing reading. And so I was very, very excited for this follow-up reading, just to hear more of the poems from these collections. Anyway, yeah, I'm super stoked. And I keep thinking, because there's a lot of New Jersey that we're hearing, and we're going to be hearing more New Jersey, about Jack Antonoff, who is the singer-songwriter for Bleachers. And then nowadays he's also worked with Taylor Swift, which I was thinking of because Taylor Swift came up, and the dude from The National. But in any case, he's like super New Jersey, and he puts all these New Jersey things in his lyrics, and it's got all of the like the John Hughes era nostalgia. Anyway, there's just New Jersey really does have a vibe, and as a Philly person, I think it's very generous of me to be giving some love to New Jersey. So That's me being just a generous person, I suppose. But seriously, amazing reading, John, and I'm loving your work so much. And it's been a joy to get to publish you in One Art, and I'm just loving how you read your poems too. So thank you. Really
Thank
fun.
you. I really appreciate it and love One Art. The
Thank you.
Daily mails every day. I look forward to them every day. So thank you.
Yeah, you were saying that made me really happy. John was just saying before we got on that his some of his top reading was the One Art Daily Post, as well as Rattle's posts that come out in Email Daily, and George Bilgair's Poetry Town, which is I have to say is incredible and one ups what I used to go to back in the day. I used to go to the Writer's Almanac, and that was a big early influence on me and my taste. So that's some of where the one art taste came together is Garrison Keillor's The Writer's Almanac, and Verse Daily. So just putting a shout out to those. So yeah, let me, while I'm thinking of it, I'm gonna throw links in the chat for the micropoems anthology. Oh, that's the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. I wanted to put a link in the chat for the haiku anthology that John mentioned, and if you go, I'll send a link for where to submit for the new one, but that's last year's that I just put a link for. And yeah, anyway, brilliant selections by our own Katie Dozier. So, speaking of Katie, next up as a featured reader, we have Katie Dozier, whose love of poetry first bloomed as a child. She memorized Robert Frost sitting on a tree stump and bathed in Edgar Allan Poe as an adolescent. While studying words at Florida State University, Katie also played with chips and became a professional poker player. She's passionate about encouraging others to discover and share contemporary poetry. This is very true. Through her social media, Substack, and NFTs, she's the author of All That Glitter, Watering Can, Watering Can, and the co-author of, I don't have Hot Pink Moon in front of me, but I have Did You See the Moon, Honey, which is another one that she co-authored with Tim Green. Katie is creator of the top-rated podcast, The Poetry Space, which I have to double down and say is really the best poetry podcast that currently exists. I would have before possibly said that it was vying with the Versus podcast when Dinesh Smith and Frenny Choi are running it, but that was a special, unique moment, and I think Poetry Space really is just running the table now. Katie's also haiku editor, as we've discussed, for One Art, and an editor of Rattle, and I have been enjoying looking at the new issue, which Katie can tell us a little bit about a new special section. I don't want to do spoilers, but there's a very cool special section that Katie played a part in, and yeah, anyway, maybe during the Q&A and community time after, you can ask Katie if she has a cool Nebraska story. So there's a hint. She lives in the Woodlands, Texas, with her husband, Timothy Green, their 4 children, and too many books. Which, can there be too many books? It's hard to say. So, Katie, please take it away, and I will drop a link to how to buy your book in the chat.
Well, thanks so much. I mean, I'm enjoying this reading already. It's so great to be here with not one amazing John, but two. And then also Laura, who I'm really excited to meet and get to hear her read. And then Mark, we have to spend a little bit of time talking about how great you are. And I have to say that, when I was first, so I studied poetry in college, but I didn't submit because I was playing poker, having kids, doing all these things. And then I only got into submitting my poems around 4 years ago, which is crazy because it feels like it's been 20, but I mean that in a good way, right? But when I was really early on the scene and I started submitting, and Mark was in One Art was one of the first journals I found, he was really encouraging and wonderful and did this interview with me that made me feel like I was somehow cool, which was awesome. Always nice to feel cool. So, Mark, you do so much for poetry. You work so tirelessly. I see people um, not always being as nice to you as they should be. So, I feel also very defensive of you because you give so much to poetry. You do so much. So, we're all really grateful that you're here and you're doing all this work with One Art. Super excited as it's been wonderfully brought up by John as well to be working on the next haiku anthology. Super exciting. So we're doing our submissions this year through Subfolio. So definitely make sure. I didn't realize that the end date was the Ides of March until you said it like that, which gives like this ominous sort of overtone. But we're gonna have fun with it as we always do. So I thought it was hilarious too, John, what you picked to start your reading with, because it seems like we were synergistically planning this reading together. Because the first poem that I want to read is the first poem that I ever had published. And it was published in Rattle long before I met Timothy Green, my husband now. So you could say this was a pretty damn important poem for me to have written because I don't know if I'd be sitting here today if I hadn't written it. So, and it also references my daughter, who was younger then, as it so seems tends to happen as life goes on. So, this is transitory. When it rains for days, the value of water plummets, and it can rain anything. Slices of American cheese sail down from the sky. The supermarkets black out their windows, and the mice take an early retirement from collecting our crumbs. The hoarders are Dickens's villains that paid less for their toilet paper because they bought it last week. People argue red or blue instead of seeing economic shapes. The most ominous storm cloud of all is the inflation of our vocabulary. Brits have over 100 words for rain. My 5-year-old daughter crinkles the empty plastic stomach lining a cereal box and sighs, shrinkflation. So that one for me too was part of my strategic game theorying, trying to get into Rattle by submitting to Poets Respond. My plan was I was going to submit 3 poems, and if I didn't get in a year and a half, I would know like something was wrong because that was my estimation based on everything. And the funny thing is, from the other side, it was a good strategy to be writing the kind of poem that wasn't to the mainstream because you have more competition there. So just saying. I could say my game theory now because I came up with it before I was the creative editor of Rattle. So it was applicable then too. So I'm reading from All That Glitter. So this is the Poetry Box books. And I also want to say how amazing Sean of Ingo Sanders is and her husband. You know, they've been such a great team. And Sean is one of these people in poetry that you feel like, hey, this is enough for me to have gotten to meet this wonderful person. I'm glad to be here. I'm in the right place. She's one of these people devoting her life to spreading amazing contemporary poetry. So I'm very grateful to Sean and to the Poetry Box. And because it got me to submit my own work. When you're an editor, Mark, I know you can relate to this. It's very much, you don't end up spending as much time like actually submitting your own poems and doing the things you're telling people to do all of the time yourself. So when when I saw that this contest, I really wanted to be a part of it because I thought, hey, I could end up winning, but if I don't, I'm supporting Sean and the Poetry Box and something that I believe in anyway. So definitely, and you know, they are open for submissions. So definitely, I think everybody's probably considering it anyway, but I would heavily recommend it because working with Sean has been great too. So, all right. And then I too, John Arthur, have a poem in my chapbook that references Taylor Swift. So I figured, especially with your adorable daughter sitting in your lap, I better read it. Although I don't know if it has cursing. You never know with my poems. This is Ode to Baskets. The goal should always be to stuff you, as though you are a college freshman home for spring break or a goose down pillow to poof. Which brings us to the peeps, sugar-dusted neon clouds that chirp the latest Taylor Swift. Shake off the shredded grass and reveal constellations of pastel eggs. Candy-coated fingers crack the plastic shells. Running like good yolks through the yard, the kids hold you in the crook of an arm, and for a moment, the sunlight basket weaves the lawn chairs. You help chocolate hop so high, hear it munch on the daffodils. So I am very happy that spring is upon us, at least here in the Houston area, where we're starting to see these blooms. Or we have this bush, this azalea bush in our backyard that I swear overnight just like exploded, and I feel like almost misled by how many blooms are suddenly on it. So I hope everyone is starting to edge into spring. I don't know. All right. So now we're going to move into a lot of people know probably my favorite form is Haibun. If it's not Haibun, it's haiku, like John was saying too earlier. So I'm working on a full-length book right now of Haibun that I'm really excited about, and this is definitely one of the ones that I will have in it. And this is about some of the challenges that my youngest daughter faces. Neurodivergent. Sometimes in the shower, I catch myself singing Pocahontas. You can't step in the same river twice. Well, what's so unique about rivers? Will she finally see us if we jump in 3 more times? Now I understand the beauty of bird watching. For me, it's not enough to say a cardinal's red when a Ferrari speeds by. While meeting therapists, her tantrums paint fire engines on the floor. But nail polish bottles are the best at names. I just can't Copacabana shouts from my fingers. Sakura is so pink that my eyes dissolve her cotton candy, and green helps me swing on the one strong vine. Asking her, favorite color, sea turtle. And I think one thing so wonderful about poetry is this ability to time capsule things, because I'm very happy to say that if you ask Charlotte her favorite color today, she will answer you. It'll probably be different like 3 minutes later, but she will answer you. And it's a really wonderful thing to get to communicate, with Charlotte like that now, which wasn't possible at the time that I wrote this poem. So now we're going to go ahead and move along to the poem that I haven't read, which is surprising because this is where the title is pulled from by and large. Although I do have to say, Tim came up with the title for this collection because I was like, oh, I don't know, and he's really great at pulling like parts because I'm super obsessed with titles and I don't like them to be like glaringly obvious. I like a little bit like, because I know when I'm reading a book, I like to feel like I'm pulling the title from somewhere myself, even though the author probably knew exactly what they were doing. So this is also, it's a villanelle, which I'm excited that Chelsea McClelland is here because I think that she is one of the absolute best people writing villanelles today. I think that also we are in a space right now named for one art, which is after a villanelle by Elizabeth Bishop. So we have to bring a villanelle into this mix, and definitely check out Chelsea's villanelle Empathy and Rattle that I think is should be right up there in my opinion with the absolute best villanelles. So I put your standards really high, and now we're going to hear mine. Here we go. Okay. Why I had a no glitter rule. My daughter poured a rainbow tube of it over her head. Set free, the sparkles didn't settle. Remember how they rained down? Glitter snuck in between the floorboards, so much unsaid by the boy that laughed at my broken wing poems. The dread of sharing with a spider that stole who webbed what he found. Way back then, I just stuck a rainbow tube over my head, pretended there was no such thing as cobwebs, as if threads could sew any two people together. But poems compound. The glitter danced on the disco floor upside down. I read Stag's Leap and found it hard to sleep. That book's red cover twinkled with green glitter stars from the ground. When did I pour it? I was stuck. No rainbows overhead. First comes reading, then comes writing, so I spread my notebooks all over the house, began to hear the sound of glitter slicing up the floorboards, poems shred. I was a shingle on the roof in a fall storm, so I fled amidst the sirens of tornado warnings. Unbound, I soon found a rainbow to jump inside my head. And about all that glitter, in the end, we were wed. So. Yeah, that one's I always love it too. My favorite kind of poem is where I'm writing it, I'm very much in the flow state, and then suddenly Tim appears. It's like my favorite thing. It's like a way of conjuring the ones you really love the most, I think, where your subconscious is like, time to bring Tim in. So it's always fun when I end up writing one of those. So now we're gonna go ahead and I am, let's see, I've actually been reading for longer than I thought I'd be reading at this point. So I'm already 10 minutes in, I think, because I tried to write it down. So I had plans to read more, but we're gonna fast forward. So this is one of Tim and I's books. We do this project where, or we have been doing this project where every April we write a Crown of Hyben together, where we alternate days and go through it like that. And I've already put him on the hook to do it again this year. So we'll be doing that again in April. So I'm also Hyben on the brain because I'm really focused on the fact that we're gonna get to write and do that kind of obsessive project again together, which I love. But I will go ahead and read a couple more poems, two more poems. And this is in the theme of first publications. This is the first Hyman that I ever had published. And this was in Frog Pond. And this is a nice one to read right now because my mom is here and my dad is here. And one of the best parts of my childhood was because my mom was a flight attendant, we got these free flights and we got to go, to these places that otherwise we probably wouldn't have been. And it's really influenced the whole trajectory of my life and my love of travel now. So this is, your seat cushion may be used as a flotation device. Back then, we had to dress up to fly standby. Sometimes winding up in first class, my sister and me in tights, pretending we might belong among the crystal salt and pepper shakers. I knew how to open a bulkhead tray table at 9 without anyone ever having paid a fare for me, learned the endless loop of smiling and the power of saying, yes, please. A play within a play, Ars Poetica. And that one I made into a video poem NFT, which was fun. I don't have time to talk about NFTs now, but I do recommend sharing your poetry. I think there's time to say that. And then time for one last extremely short poem. Owing to John Arthur and I's synchronicity, I plan to close with a haiku too because I'm obsessed with haiku because also I think that they really distill poetry to its core. And that's why I get so excited about it. And I also think that if I ever manage to write a perfect poem in my lifetime, odds are it'll be a haiku because I have the fewest words to mess up there. So, and this is I think the best poem I've ever written, and it's short. So, and this appeared in Modern Haiku. Modern Haiku, if you haven't heard of it, is an amazing journal. It's my favorite Japanese forms journal out there, and I really recommend supporting them and reading them. Even if you're not a Japanese forms person, reading these kinds of poems, I think, can only make us better poets. So the poem is very dramatically now. Um, Before you, the wildflowers, just wildflowers. So thanks so much. It was so fun reading for you guys today, and thanks for listening to me. And Mark, thanks again for everything you do for poetry. It's wonderful to find myself with one art over and over again. So
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. You're so sweet. That was an exceptional reading, also. And I was thinking as you were reading that you definitely exemplify, you were doing quite a few forms, but something that it it took me a little to add language to one art submission guidelines that I'm not, like I have a thing that we primarily publish free verse poetry. Um, Although, when creating the journal, that was a quick second thought kind of moment was I did pick a villanelle as, naming it after a villanelle when in fact primarily what I tend to think that I gravitate towards is free verse, but it's kind of only a half truth. And I learned that after a series of conversations, partly with Nicole Caruso Garcia, where she suggested incorporating some language about uh, also including an interest in formal poetry that reads like free verse, even though free verse is technically a form. Uh, yeah, I think deep down we all like verse poetry, and honestly, Katie can articulate this better than I can, but we all do. It's just we had it sort of beaten into us in school that there's like this sort of terrible old rhyme scheme type of poetry from the 1700s or something that doesn't really make any sense with the way we speak in modern times. And so, unfortunately, that creates a negative association. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I feel like Katie's poetry really exemplifies in many ways just like how to do, poetry that has formal elements and retains that sort of flow that I look for in good poems.
Oh, thanks. I have to say thanks. Thanks, Mark. That's very sweet, very specific compliment. Thank you.
I try. Thank you, Katie. So next up, we have John Wojtowicz, author of No Lightsabers in the Kitchen. John grew up working on his family's azalea, shout out azaleas, azalea and rhododendron nursery, and lives in the backwoods of what Ginsberg dubbed Nowhere Zen, New Jersey. He lives with his wife and his two children there. Currently, John teaches social work at Rowan College of South Jersey. He's been featured on Rowan University's Writers Roundtable and Painted Bride Quarterly's Slushpile podcast. Several of his poems were selected for Princeton University's 2021 Unique Minds Creative Voices exhibition at the Lewis Center of the Arts. When he's not writing, teaching, or rolling around in the yard, he enjoys monitoring bluebird boxes, don't we all? Volunteering at the zoo, whose name I would mispronounce, and flipping horseshoe crabs, which I recommend as a pastime, and you can possibly do it at a beach near you. So, John, please take it away.
Oh, thanks, Mark. This is just great to be reading with this group again, with the addition of Laura. And yeah, Katie and John, their readings are fantastic, and their collections are so cool because they're infused with the haiku and the haibin, and they got me scribbling around with some haibin, so we'll see what comes out of that. And I want to thank you too, Mark, because this is a great reading. But Mark does a ton. Like even when I just first started writing, like one art, something that just he created, and the Schuylkill Valley Journal, and he just kind of bare knuckle boxed onto the scene. And I keep seeing it, one art come up on these like best lists and chill subs, and I'm like, go Mark, So it's fantastic. And then all the crossover, like the poetry box, and then Katie's involved, and Mark's from Philly, and John's from New Jersey. I'm like got this red string going all over the place, trying to figure it all out. But these, I'm gonna read a couple poems that were in March, but it's February was just yesterday, so that maybe have a little bit. A couple poems that have some love themes. This one's called "Grilling in the Rain." The rain is coming down like 10,000 marbles, and I'm hiding in the shed until I need to tend to the sausage again. The power is out, and our stove is electric. They say this is how it will be now, with the rain. When I say they, I mean a lecturer at the county library. Periods of heavy rain, followed by drought. Also, the whole county is sinking. I'm thinking, there's another reason not to get a pool. I would like to retract my opening simile. The rain sounds like the drums of 10,000 woodpeckers, but of the same species. Each classification has its own ratio of strikes per second. Red-bellied, 19, flicker, 25, downy, 15, and pileated, anywhere from 10 to 30. I read this in the local paper that shows up suspiciously free in my mailbox. No mention of the yellow-bellied sapsucker, which was also suspicious, like the author held something back. I dash out to check on the sausage, rain drumming like marbles and woodpeckers. I cut the propane. By candlelight glow, my sweet wife is setting out plates. I hurry inside to take my place. This next one, George Bill Gare featured on Wordplay, which Wordplay and the Poetry Space are my two weekly must listen weekly poetry listens. So I was excited that this was on there. And it's called "Because I Can't Tell My Wife, I Occasionally Pick Up Hitchhikers on My Lunch Break." I crank the heat. Carefully, he wipes his feet, mud splattered on his cheek. Everyone knows serial killers don't hitchhike in the rain. He holds his hands to the vents, says he needs to get back to his tent, worried he left it unzipped. As we pass the high school, he points out the ball fields, tells me someone told him his son's going to be the next Mike Trout. He asked me to stop at Wawa, asks if I want coffee. I buy us both large coffees and little cigars. We laugh at a duck swimming in a pothole. When I drop him off, he stands at attention, offers a smart right-hand salute, heads down the tracks. I sip my lukewarm coffee and head back to my button-down work. The next poem I'm going to read is not in the collection, but the Philadelphia Union, the soccer team there in Philadelphia, it has their first regular season game today. I think it's at 4, so I'm a big fan. I'll be watching. So I'm gonna read a soccer poem. I used to go to the laundromat and like they had this ad that would always play. It was just like El Futbol Nos Un. And it's just soccer unites us. And I kind of pulled the title from there, and it's just called Nos Un, so unites us. My neighbor Nos un. My neighbor refills vases of Mexican marigolds arranged between pumpkins with painter's tape price tags. When they first moved in, language made postage stamps of our lawns, but it wasn't long before a black and white ball began breaching those borders, our kids speaking in passes and traps, juggles, feints, chips, and headers. Now they're amigos, friends, hermanos, brothers, practicing step-overs and swapping curse words. Now she waves, I wave. I roll my eyes at the neighbors with bad politics. She smiles, I smile. Familia. And from somewhere beyond us, goal. This is a flower poem, but kind of in the same spirit as the last one. It's called Solidarity. When protesters lie on the ground, it's called a die-in. And this tactic is mirrored by my blue-blotched pansies when I've absent-mindedly deprived them of water. Before misting, I try to pick out the ones only taking a knee, thick stems, plump petals, the water having pooled in their little patch of the pot, those who are not parched but lie down anyway, out of thirst for their neighbors to be quenched. And this is another sort of love poem, another rain poem. I guess we've had a lot of that. So it's called Lilacs, Dandelions, and Rain. Evening rain carries the scent of lilacs to my bedroom window, which I think is better than smelling them directly, because I'm lying on a memory foam mattress and because lilacs benefit from a good wafting. My wife is sleeping. Earlier we made our version of love, lots of cursing and consensual name-calling. Wilder lovers might have done it in the rain, beneath the lilacs, but something tells me it would have been one of those experiences better in a poem or a movie than in practice, like sex on the beach. My advice is to bring a blanket or commandeer a lifeguard stand. I'm saying, before begging for chocolate syrup, make sure you like being sticky. I'm saying that the wind is blowing all the wishes from the wishing flowers, and tonight that is okay with me. And the next poem is kind of a love letter to my daughter. There's a lot of different ways that people become parents, and I think most of the time, we all we all kind of deserve our moment of when we became that parent, regardless of whether it started in a hospital room or a home birth or on a car ride or at the park or whatever. So this is called Mr. Moon. The moon is following me, she concludes from the back seat while kicking her feet, the only extremities her car seat allows full range of motion. The straps are snug against her belly button, securing her like an umbilical cord did when her mother's stomach was swollen like the sun, uterus and nucleus, milk-hardened breasts, asteroids in orbit. She believes that now even the moon has been captured by her pull. I can't argue its power, so I just nod and smile, the solution to most enigmatic moments, like when people exclaim, "She has your blue eyes," not knowing they're gazing into different pools. "Do you think Mr. Moon will come home with us, Daddy?" she asks, calling me this for the first time. I look back, seeing her as I have always known her, and say, yes, because somehow I know he's just another wandering body, drawn into this maternal expanse of stardust and breath, while passing close beside. Both Katie and John read some poems kind of about their kids and the things their kids say. And this is a poem like that, but a more recent one. And this time it was my son Jack saying, "Even master shoe tires mess up sometimes." So that's the epigraph, and the poem's called Master Shoe Tires. Somewhere deep in the Himalayas or Western Ghats, there's a small sangha of monks who've given up their scrolls and singing bowls and devoted their practice to mastering the vast catalog of shoelace knots, loop, swoop, and pull, bunny ears, surgeon, better bow, reef, turquoise turtle, and of course the many styles of lacing: ladder, hexagram, sawtooth, diamond, butterfly, checkerboard, doubleback, spiral. When approached by seekers, they say things like, "Don't give the power to tie your laces to those who haven't worn your shoes." They rock Kaisaya robes with Chuck Taylors, Shack Attack, Stan Smiths, and Air Force Ones. And yes, whether in a nod to Wabi Sabi or because this form resists being mastered, even the great gurus must sometimes stop and re-knot their true blue Air Jordan 3s. When they rise from one knee, as if finishing a prayer, their shoelaces are taut like a reliable mantra. They smirk at the humanity of it all. And this is the last one. No, I got two more. This is just a poem. My yoga instructor, she says "excellent job" after pretty much everything we do, but it always sounds to me like she's saying "excellent, John," which is very encouraging. So this poem kind of jumps off from there. Excellent, John. When the yoga instructor with her soothing voice says, "Excellent job," it sounds like she's saying, "Excellent, John." As if, out of all the downward dogs in the loft of the gym, mine just won best in show. And though I know I'm supposed to empty my mind, I can't help but think about how the chances of being called excellent really plummet after elementary school, where I remember on more than one occasion confidently raising my hand and answering a question and being called excellent and feeling excellent, which is sort of how I feel now as the teacher's voice drifts over the class. "Excellent John today. Excellent John." Here's the last one. This is from the collection. It's a backyard poem. It's called Wild. The rugs haven't been caught in so long, the shag is tickling my chin. It's up to my neck. Sometimes it's hard to breathe, this deep in domestic wilderness. It's been some time since I backpacked through nightclubs, traversed the landscape of closing time, scrapped the map on a mushroom trip. But right now, I'm deadheading petunias on my back deck. My kids, who convinced me to spend the afternoon throwing a birthday party for an inchworm named Spike, are sleeping. The dog is chasing lightning bugs. My wife is finishing her glass of rosé, and soon will be waiting for me in our bed. Earlier today, I added boat-tailed grackle to my backyard bird list. My zucchini is flowering, and so, for the first time, is the southern magnolia I planted a few springs back. Big Orange, our designated groundhog, is on his hind legs taking in the evening news. And as the sun moves to give someone else a turn with the light, I consider that this might be the wildest I've ever been. Thank you.
Amazing, John. Thank you so much. So many smiles and joy. Just like really, really delightful. I was thinking also just overall, all three readers so far have done, poems that do include child elements, and I feel like these poems have all been so accessible for a child-free person and like really full of joy in a way that like invites you into the world of child rearing in a way that's cool and friendly and feel good. And it's like really sweet because I don't know, it's like not always like that. But yeah, I mean, John's poems are just super funny, and he pulls from just all over the place, which I really get a kick out of. And something that makes me think of is, and I won't go on about this too long, but is I think that's like a fear for AI and poetry, is that it can pull from anywhere, right? Like it can pull from like the whole wealth of human knowledge, but as a large language model. But because we have a small language model, the limitation of to err is human, right? Is that like we can have a fair amount of associations we can make, but only so much, and that's going to end up being our saving grace. There is that there's only so much that we can like hold up here and shuffle around, and it's like very individualized. but I still think it's like really cool when someone just pulls from like just truly surprising places and brings them together. It just like smashes things together that you just wouldn't see coming. So yeah, so many delightful moments. Thank you, John. And so last but not least, we have Laura Foley. Laura is author of Ice Cream for Lunch, A Grandparent's Handbook. And while I'm saying the titles of the books, I feel like please look at, yes, at the covers of these books. And Sean does such a good job on these covers. They're so cool and just amazingly well done. So yes, Ice Cream for Lunch, A Grandparent's Handbook. She is also author of 10 previous poetry books, most recently including Sledding the Valley of the Shadow. Her book, Why I Never Finished My Dissertation, received a starred Kirkus review and an Eric Hoffer Award. She's won a Narrative Magazine Poetry Prize, the Common Goods Book Poetry Prize, Atlanta Review's Grand Prize, as well as other prizes. Her works appeared in numerous journals, including Alaska Quarterly Review, Valparaiso, which went defunct, but I love that journal. Poetry Society London, Atlanta Review, Poetry of Presence, which I think you mean the anthologies, right? Yes, there are two, and they're wonderful anthologies that I love to link to, and I'll throw a link in the chat. And How to Love the World, Poems of Gratitude and Hope. That's a James Cruz anthology. And yes, Laura lives on the steep banks of the Connecticut River in New Hampshire and romps with her grandchildren as often as possible. And I believe she's currently, in fact, in Maine, which sounds really cool. And yes, Laura, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you, John and Katie. I really enjoyed your reading a couple of weeks ago with John Bilger, and I'm happy to be joining in right now. I spoke to Sean or communicated with Sean before the reading, and she suggested that I read some one art poems and also some ice cream for lunch poems. So that's what I've chosen. And actually, there's one that's an overlap that was in one art before it came out in Ice Cream for Lunch. I'm going to start with a few from one art, and this one felt sadly appropriate today. Dust of Snow. I thought I was done mourning war, learning to savor a face full of snow shaken from the pine, a small blessing, without remembering water dripping on my father's head, the torture, the coma, his 4 long years in a Japanese prison before becoming my father. And Stefan, too, skiing out of Poland, escape carved through snow into Lithuania, then Russia, before he became my husband, now gone these many years. This dawn after snowfall, as a new war enters my thoughts, sun lifts a thin white line from the chimney of our gray, peaceable house on its wooded hill. Still, I see smoke from bombed buildings, barely noticing how snow loosens from the pine's arms, drifting like a quiet ghost. Radiance. I remember when I stopped not believing in God. It sent me to my knees, pleading, hands clasped like a penitent or a medieval saint transported to the modern age, struck by my mother's stroke. A litany flowed through me of faintly remembered prayers, growing as I spoke. My knees impervious to the hard tile cramped between sink and bath. Yet, when I opened the door, I feigned no interchange, knew my husband's unknowingness, would try to eclipse my newfound light, turn brilliance to a dull, watered gray, with his scoffing gaze, the planet of his non-belief, blocking me from radiating. I didn't wish to rejoin him in the cave where I once found comfort, watching shadows dance. It was the start of the end of us, the beginning of my brighter epoch. Let's go out for breakfast, I say to myself. I rush to the biggest post office at 8 on Monday, so my card for the celebrated poet's birthday won't arrive late. Green bamboo jungle, a panda bear looking content, which I wrote reminded me of him. At the hipster cafe, my latte's bitter, the bagel too salty to eat. I spend the morning on a stool watching strangers on the street, March winds buffeting their eyes with winter dust. At lunch, I meet my beloved, her teaching gig done. But the cool taco truck's closed, not enough staff, explains the handmade sign. We make our hungry way home, and I stop at the railroad crossing where last November her student backed onto the tracks, didn't see the oncoming train. I pause at the makeshift shrine, a wooden cross, piles of basketballs, plastic flowers, teddy bears. Though the clerk said the card will arrive late, though the coffee was undrinkable, the bagel inedible, the taco place closed, though everyone has dust in their eyes, for one moment I saw it, a single ash leaf lifting upward, spiraling over the railroad tracks, brown but somehow catching the light, so it gleamed in passing, spinning out of sight. Someone, I once lived on a great wide river, a time of deep aloneness after loss. How soothing it was to watch waters passing, sunlight reflected in circular currents, a white moon cresting above the shadowed mountain. I miss the river, though not the hushed quietness of that time, the endless plumbing of depth I never guess, which never nonetheless led me to choose a wife, calling me from another room, as she is now, to come downstairs for tea, steeped to the color of the river. That wife just entered, and because my dog started making funny noises and needing to go out, so in the middle of that reading, she very nicely did that. Love and people, not things. When my mother died, she left behind few things in her one-room assisted living space. Some clothes, of course, and a worn black leather purse. In it, I discovered, wrapped in shiny silver paper, a chocolate with a message inside, repeated in 5 languages, a fortune candy, Italian dark chocolate crisped with hazelnuts. So I ate it. Alone in a room emptied of her, holding almost nothing she owned, I read and reread her last message to me. At my mother's memorial, when I told the story, the poem hadn't existed. I just told the story about finding this chocolate in her purse and how I ate it. And then everybody started laughing. I mean, we were weeping. I mean, I was weeping, But when I said that, everybody started laughing, and it was so surprising. The Crosstown Bus. This is from a reunion that a high school reunion I went to in the spring. The Crosstown Bus. We board with our senior passes, and were 5 Brearley girls chanting of Mary who lived on 86th, loved everything horses, and that movie we watched at her house when we were 8, black and white with eerie music, 2 climbers on a rock ledge, One pulls a long rope to find his friend on the other end dead. Artist Sarah remembers Ellen's magenta bedspread as she points to a lady near us with a corduroy coat just like it. All of us seeing again Ellen's leaf pattern. Ellen, who lived on First and moved away, owned a Vermont bookstore and died last year. I'm remembering her childhood apartment, how we pretended the NS elevator button stood for Nancy Snow, her little sister, instead of nonstop, and their basset hound with prostate problems, everything hanging low to the ground. And now we're roaring, 5 seniors giggling as we cross town on a crowded bus that takes us through our lives until we get off at different stops. And the next few will be from Ice Cream for Lunch. And I'm working on a sequel tentatively called Chocolate Chips for Breakfast, but that might change. One day, I didn't read the news. I raked a rainbow of pungent autumn leaves, played abroad with happy dogs, held my granddaughter in my arms, and sat beneath an amiable maple, attentive to current events. Alternate reality. At just 2, Evelyn resists my hand, walks on her own down the steep drive, kicks a lump of snow she calls rock. At the bottom of the hill, Christmas waits in sacks, bright wrapper and ribbon just visible through black plastic, cardboard waving from the recycling bin in December wind. A truck rumbles up just in time for us, and she calls happily to Santa Claus, who jumps out and waves back as he loads the trash into his noisy sleigh. In white beard, ski cap, fluorescent green vest, I can see what she has seen in him and how he now begins to see himself as he ho-ho-hos down the road, red tail lights twinkling, engine thundering as he grinds the gears like 100 reindeer. Breakfast conversation. I placed Evelyn's favorites, fresh raspberries, string cheese, a glass of milk in the giraffe cup on her high chair tray. As she munches away, swinging her short legs, she asks thoughtfully, Grandma, are you pooping? I continue my bite of oatmeal, take a sip of coffee, respond, No, darling. How about you? She isn't either, as we both wonder what to say next. My Little Mermaid. Eleanor's favorite part of her favorite movie is Ariel emerging on shore, becoming human. She hums the wordless tune, a sorcerer's siren-like eerie incantation, slides her small finger across the iPad screen like a magic wand, growing and regrowing the mermaid's legs. In thick pink glasses that match the braces on her legs, she totters across the living room, finds her balance for the first time at 5, fully risen from the carpet's azure ocean floor. Joy and sorrow. Both emotions weigh about the same, but one opens you up like a cavity, a well of darkness you think you will never fill. The liquid loss of a friend's voice, the way she turned a phrase. The other's like inhaling helium. So you walk the same street on the same tired feet, but hardly notice the impact, not feeling heel or sole on cold pavement, light as a leaf riding a breeze. When you hold your grandson for the first time in his little star suit, his 2 pools of deep blue beam into you. His long fingers curl and uncurl like lilies at dawn or dusk. Ere you still breathe as you hover that night like a balloon over your bed, still hearing your friend's waterfall notes, finally knowing both joy and sorrow are holy. And I'll read 2 more poems. This was the one that was on in One Art before it was in Ice Cream for Lunch. My state. At daycare, Evelyn says, Sue serves us spoiled eggs. Oh, you mean boiled? No, spoiled, and I don't like them. Later, I ask Sue, who elucidates, scrambled. In the parking lot, we talk license plates. Mine has a loon, she explains, and yours is green. Yes, yours is a loon because you're from Maine. Yes, Grandma, but I'm from license plate too. I squint into space, trying to imagine the state of license plate, but find a mind of scrambled eggs. And I'll read the title, sort of the title poem, which is set in Maine. Epiphany. When I say I love the sound of waves on rocks, the shower of white-capped foam, Evelyn covers her ears to muffle the din. My, let's gaze at the sea, look for seals bobbing in the surf, elicits her, I'd rather see an eel. Strolling marginal way to reach the sandy beach, a mile along the rocky coast, she's chosen to wear a long-sleeved, dark green, velveteen dress. Every stranger we pass this mid-May morning smiles and greets the child in Christmas attire. She beams broadly back and twirls her dress. Because her dress is making her sweat, and I remember she dislikes sticky sand touching her feet, we never make it to the beach. We find a bench instead, rest in shade, and then we agree, I need it, Grandma, to cool off. A perfect dish of chocolate chip for lunch. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
That was wonderful, Laura. Thank you so much. I like just such a good blend of just powerful poems and then very, very sweet poems. And again, more poems about children. So we've had a whole through line of life with children and grandchildren. This has been wonderful, everyone. Thank you for a terrific reading and exceeded my expectations, which were very high. So thank you all for being here. And let's continue.